Well, good afternoon, everyone, and here we are back on the Learning Hub, the hub of knowledge. And here we have a KF-21 BORAMAE, which is a beautiful aircraft. I absolutely love it. I think it's really nice looking, yeah. And then we have the two F-44.5 Mantellas, which are of course based on the Raptors, the export version of the Raptor in What If Fantasy World. And I really like those, they're beautiful aircraft. And here we have the FC-31 Chinese export fighter, which I think is an absolute stunner. A nice aircraft as well. I do like the look of 4.5, 4.7 and 5th gen aircraft. I think they're absolutely beautiful. Now, a lot's been said about the KF-21 and the FC-31, which is becoming a J-35A. And Millennium 7 Star, who knows about aerodynamics and is an engineer, I believe, has done a good video comparing and contrasting the two. And people will say, oh, well, the FC-31 is a copy of the F-35 or a copy of the Raptor. And Millennium 7 Star has done a video explaining why that's not the case and explaining the difference in the air intakes. Now, what's really interesting is that the Mantella, which is the F-22 export version, so imagine it without the canards and with the thrust vectoring control, is often likened to the KF-21, and that makes sense because Lockheed was part of the development of the KF-21. And the big difference here is in the air intakes. So if we look at the air intakes for the KF-21 and we look at the air intakes for the Mantella or the Raptor, you see that they are essentially the same. You'll see that there's a lot of similarity between the airframes, especially from above. When you look at the view from the top, the bird's eye view. Now, there is similarity in the design of the airframes between the FC-31 and the Raptor in some ways, although there's more differences when you actually get down to it, especially with the way that the engines protrude, but that's because this doesn't have thrust vectoring controls. Now, certainly the FC-31 has learnt a lot from the F-22 and the F-35 program, and you'll see this underneath where you have the weapons bays. So on the Mantella or the F-22, you've got the internal weapon bay, and you've got the same thing on the FC-31, a single bay, not with the side bays. The J-20 has the side bays. Now, the KF-21 doesn't have, at the minute, internal weapons bays. It has external weapons storage, which isn't actually a problem because most of the F-35s actually fly with external loads. There's not a lot of weapons which can be accommodated inside, and I don't see that as a particular problem because it's still got lower observability than the equivalent F-16 and F-18. But the big difference here is the intakes. So if you have a look at the shape of these intakes and these, and what Millennium 7 Star has pointed out is that these are designed for low speed, high manoeuvrability air intake, and these are designed for higher speed, supersonic air intakes. And the two are completely different in their purpose. So when people say, oh, well, it's just a carbon copy, it's not. They're very different designs in terms of what the air intakes are designed to do. Now, if you want a better explanation than that, go and watch Millennium 7 Star's video because he explains it from an engineering perspective. This is, of course, a diverterless intake. And it's completely different to the Mantella or the F-22 intake. It does different things and different purposes. Now, there are, of course, similarities in the shape, and I believe you're going to get a lot of similarities anyway, because if you're trying to design a low observable aircraft, certain rules apply. For my armed forces that operate the FC-31 at present and the J-10s, I think, as we know, world events, even in the what if world, are kind of need to be taken into account. And if I just did a what if of a J-20 armed with AIM 260 missiles. It just wouldn't be believable at all. So I try and keep things believable. And the KF-21 for me is an absolute godsend, if you like, of an aircraft, because it's from the rules-based world, but it's not directly American aligned. And the FC-31s being export fighters, again, they're a godsend, because they're not like a J-20 or something like that, which China won't, export. But it is designed as an export fighter, so it gives the What If modeler a number of options. I'm actually going down the KF-21 route with the Mantellas from my Air Force. The FC-31s, yes, they are in operation, but because they have the enclosed weapons bay, although this Navy prototype got fuel tanks and stuff from a Rafale that's nicked them. The FC-31s I'm using in Bomber Command as strike aircraft primarily, and I'm using the KF-21 as my all-round day-to-day fighter, which will be replacing Gripens and replacing Mirage 2000s and the Su-30s, because it's got good air-to-air combat load, and it's also a good bomb carrier. And then I'm using the Mantellas as my advanced, either for taking out very high priority targets like this one in an air-to-ground role, but generally I'm using the Mantellas in an air-to-air dominance role to gain air superiority. So a real mix. And then last but not least, I'm using the F-107M as kind of my general day-to-day lugger, replacing the J-10s. And that's part of a strategic pivot away from China towards indigenous designs, and also towards more of the rules-based world, because I think we can all agree that following the rules is quite helpful, really. Yeah, I just wanted to do this quick video just to show you the differences. I think they're beautiful aircraft. I absolutely love them all. I can't stop building planes. I'm sorry. Bye.